My father passed away when I was 5, so I grew up without a lot of the important life lessons that I never learned from him. But recently, decades later, I got the most important lesson of my life from him. That lesson taught me what I was missing and unlocked an entire new world of knowledge, skills, and joy that I've been missing out my whole life. It was a hard lesson to learn, and I easily could have gone the rest of my life without ever learning it. So I'm going to tell you how I learned this lesson so you can recognize if you're missing out on it like I was, and then tell you the concrete steps for using it yourself. Growing up without my dad, we were pretty poor. Naturally, it became important to Mom that I study hard, get a good job, and not be poor. She told me to hide my country accent, fit in the city, and go to university. So I did. Luckily, I had inherited a gift from my dad, and I was good at school, and all the stuff like that. You must have also learned a lot of this style of outcome-based education. The type where you start learning something where you already know what the end is going to be, everything's all planned out. You know what you're going to benefit from it and how to do it. And this makes a lot of sense. It's by far the easiest way to teach groups of people. So this worked great. I studied hard, I got my degree, and then I worked in science and engineering most of my life. It pays decent, so mission accomplished, Mom. Not poor! She would be proud. But honestly, I wasn't a very happy person. Logical study and hard work had brought me a lot of physical comforts, but I didn't really get much joy out of any of that. So what was wrong? What was missing? I had gotten the first hint when I was in high school. My friend's mom was giving me a ride home from school, and we didn't know each other well, so we were making small talk. And then right about when she was about to drop me off at my house, she just asked me, what does my dad do? And I hated this question. I was totally fine about my dad. I barely even met him, so it's not like I'd gotten really attached to somebody and then lost him. I mean, it's not great not having a dad, but seriously, the worst part was being able to have normal, small talk conversations like everyone else does without it having to turn into some kind of sad, dramatic topic. They'd feel sad, and then I'd feel sad they were sad. It was a pain every single time. So, like every time, I told her, and like every time, she got sad. And then, like always, I explained, hey, don't feel bad, it's fine. I barely got to know him. It's not like I have a big feeling of loss or anything. Only, unlike every other time, when I told her this, something different happened. She actually looked more sad. And this startled me so much that I remember this conversation to this day. She then leaned over and told me, I'm sorry, you're too young to understand this yet, but this is going to affect you the rest of your life. This was my first real hint of what my dad's lesson was. But this didn't make any sense. On one hand, I could tell she was being honest. She really believed what she was saying. But I also knew she was wrong. I was a clever kid, and me and my studying were going to solve everything. Years later, I got an even stronger hint. I had a career I was proud of, and I had the kind of relationship that at the time I thought was the perfect kind. I had everything I wanted. My life was nearly perfect, and yet I still didn't feel like it was enough. I remember clearly lying next to my girl at night, staring at the ceiling thinking, this is it? What else? There has to be more. I had gotten all of the things that logically should make me happy. My life was nearly perfect. What else was left? Then finally, a little over a year ago, I got the big hint that was big enough to finally make me learn my father's lesson. Recently, I've been feeling a desire to get to know my father, to find some way to, connect with him. I was going to CMA Fest, and I had found this wildly discounted ticket. It was a seat really near the stage that should have been, out of my budget by a whole lot. But, I was going. And it's CMA, which is Country Music Artist Fest. So naturally, with the seats I had, I was surrounded by a lot of people in the music business. And it was a great view of the stage. Up to this point, a number of times, it's a little embarrassing, but I've been told that I have a good voice. Certainly not for singing. I am terrible at that, but it will never stop me anyway. But I'm often told that, I have a good speaking voice, that, I should work in radio or do some kind of announcing work or something like that. Now, that's another thing that I inherited from my dad. So I'd been thinking it feels like that maybe could be a way that I could connect with my dad. But, that's stupid. Like, what do you even do with a voice? And I have a job. All of this just makes no sense. So, just like always, I had that feeling, but did nothing. Then, during the concert, after a break after Luke Bryan, everyone was chatting, getting to know each other. And the guy in the row in front of me just turned and directly asked, "So, which radio station do you announce for?" And this took me by surprise. Here, this man wasn't just trying to be polite. He was just certain that I had to be using my voice for a living. Just a matter of where. And when I told him that I didn't, I was an engineer and I don't do anything with my voice, he was pretty annoyed. But he politely actually went on and was like, hey, he gave me a couple of names of places I should call or email and look into. Very nice of him. But of course, I didn't call any of them. But it really got me thinking about how, my voice is another gift from my dad. Everybody has different things we've gotten, and this was something unique that I got from him, different than what everyone else would get. And it was a gift that I was wasting, a gift from my father. And that bothered me. So that was why, unlike all of the hints I had gotten before, this time I followed that feeling that something good could come out of this, even though I couldn't explain to myself what or how, and I took action. I went out and I bought the mic Joe Rogan uses for podcasting. I cringed at the most wasteful expense I've ever made. I've had times in my life where I couldn't even afford food, so spending this much money on a microphone, it was very hard to do. But as soon as I took action on this foolish area of exploration, it started to rapid fire bring me unexpected but great things into my life. The things I'd been missing. Once I started seeing all this happen, I realized that this was my father's greatest lesson to me. It was a new form of learning, where you dive in even though at the beginning you don't know yet how it could work out for you. As opposed to outcome education, it's kind of a shadow learning. And it's opened up a massive new world of knowledge and skills that I've been missing out on. Learning these missing things has improved my relationships, increased my day-to-day enjoyment of just living, and it's unlocked a whole lot of meaning and purpose. I would have never learned this without my desire to connect with my father, pushing me over the top to take that leap, even though it seemed pointless and embarrassing. Maybe if he'd lived, I would have learned this lesson decades ago. Who knows how different my life would have been, and maybe there's some benefit that I went this route. But I am sure that I wish I knew this years ago. So if you've been missing this lesson too, I'm going to tell you now how to do this shadow learning using the concrete steps that work for me. Give you a shortcut. The first step that will start everything in motion is really listen to your emotions. Hear them. Just like I was, you're getting hints for this kind of stuff all the time, but you're usually missing most of them. For an example, for a while I was in college, I was a musician. And while I loved it, in the end, something felt missing. And as a result, I honestly never got that good. I know now that my real passion was related to music, but he was combining music with words and videos, making things like that. So I was close, but not quite there. And it took me years, many years, to hear the hints and figure that out. We want you to do this faster. So listening to emotions takes time. That's a whole big topic that we could get into another day, but the word emotion comes from the word motion, and moving takes time. And we're really good at avoiding that. We chain one event to the next. We never have to be alone with our thoughts. And this is what we're gonna have to do. It's not a lot, just take some time, get rid of all your distractions for about 2 to 3 minutes. Sit comfortably and look out a window. Then think specifically about what you care about, what's important to you. And also think about the things you don't care about, that you're completely fine not having. Whenever you think of something that you feel curious about, excited, or drawn to, write it down. Now take those things and we're gonna sort them. Some of these will be the familiar things that you can already see the benefits related to them. Those things we already know how to handle from our years of outcome education skills. But some of them are gonna seem interesting and you're gonna feel drawn to, but you won't be able to see any benefit to pursuing. Save those. Now pick one that pulls you the most. And there you go. You found your entryway to the path of shadow learning. The next step is the most important because this is the step that most people never do. Be brave, take a leap of faith, and start taking some kind of action on that topic you picked. Any action at all. It doesn't matter what it is. This could be starting some art lessons, like I studied videography. Or it could be visiting a place that you want to go, but you can't say what you'd really do when you got there. It could be even as simple as just reconnecting with an old friend. This is gonna be very different and completely unique to you. So this should be getting obvious why this type of learning isn't taught in classrooms. For me, it was buying that podcast microphone. Simply taking that first action in the actual world instead of just thinking about it changed a lot of things about how I thought about it. My mind immediately started looking for next steps, other things related to it, things I couldn't see before. It kind of went from the brain go like, okay, this is nonsense. For real, we're actually doing this? Okay, we're actually doing this. Well, if we're in this boat, well, let me see. Well, how about this and how about that? It's really interesting how much your way of thinking changes. So the action itself will open some new doors a crack. The very month after I bought it, one of my friends announced that he'd been working on a podcast for the past year. And from there, I started to learn more from him. At first, doing this is gonna feel uncomfortable. I know I felt foolish and a little bit embarrassed. It could even feel scary. That feeling is the wall that the people who enjoy all the benefits from this kind of knowledge have learned to overcome. Don't worry if you can't explain it to others or make it sound cool. This path sometimes has to be walked alone for a while. So it's hard to share this part with others, and that's fine. It's actually good practice to have some things just for yourself. And this is completely a sign that you're doing the right thing. Just keep at it. As you keep going, keep checking in with your emotions from time to time. This process works a lot like a heat-seeking missile. As you're getting closer to the target, you'll feel a stronger pull to what your exact direction is. This means your direction is gonna change. These changes can look strange to your friends who are only familiar with outcome-based education. So to them, it could look like you're aimless or starting and giving up on things, making mistakes. Again, don't worry about that. This is another sign that you're on the right track. Remember, the uncomfortableness is the very thing that makes the progress, like a good day at the gym. In outcome-based education, arriving at your destination is obvious, and it's black and white. They hand you a diploma. You get a paycheck. The chemistry experiment works. But as you'd expect, in shadow learning, the graduation day is a bit fuzzier. It won't smack you in the face, but you'll start noticing you've bit by bit gained something good that was missing before. payoffs that you weren't looking for. You might find more joy in your life, or be meeting people that you connect with better, or simply just be better at your job. So pay attention every so often to what's different in your life. It'll sneak up on you. Step 5 is the best one. Repeat it for life. From this new place you're at, you'll be able to feel a more precise pull to where you want to be next. Pull to some new things. Just like in outcome-based education, the new things you learn through shadow learning will have unlocked some new things you can learn next. If you've had a whole lifetime of one type of learning and are just starting on this type for the first time, you have a whole lifetime of things waiting to learn and add to your life. So repeat this from the first step and keep adding all the things that you easily could have gone through your life missing. Combining together the things that you learn through both outcome-based education and through shadow learning, you'll become a really complete, formidable person. You'll outcompete people who only learn one style. And most importantly, you're gonna live a more complete, fulfilling life. If you give this a try, I'd really love to hear about your experience and what you got out of it. This sort of topic means a lot to me, and I'm looking to make more videos about this related in the future. So, if you leave a comment or anything, I'll absolutely get back to you. Thanks for listening to my experience. And thanks, Dad, for all the gifts.